Hello everybody, my name is Evgenia Pali and I'm the product manager for Benelux in Synology. The first part of this presentation is about the business file server. Every company needs a solution for storage and collaboration, but selecting and setting up such a file server can be a challenge. In Synology, we believe that companies need efficient and user-friendly solutions that can be easily integrated into existing infrastructures. That is why we create our products as powerful but easy-to-use tools. You might already have your infrastructure with different devices and you would introduce there a file server. Synology integrates to every IT environment and provides compatibility with various networking protocols. And of course, we're compatible with all the platforms, Windows, Mac, and Linux. You can also connect Synology server to different devices. It is compatible with Active Directory, so you can link it and use the accounts of your Active Directory to connect to your NAS. Moreover, if you already use a Windows server, you can easily migrate your data to Synology NAS together with all the permissions. Synology NAS will also fit to any business environment thanks to its expandable capacity. The product range can go from 1 bay to 180, so it's suitable for companies of all sizes, whether it is an SMB or an enterprise. Increasing the number of bays with expansion units, you can also achieve more storage capacity and easily store petabytes of data. We have many examples of our customers that use our servers and are happy with them, and one of them is Chris Group, the leading French optics manufacturer. Chris Group has 1,350 shops located all over France, and they have set up DS215 Plus as a central file server in every location. All these servers were easily integrated to their infrastructures without any issues. And as Chris mentioned themselves, the entire architecture requires hardly any maintenance, and that makes their IT department happy. So Synology NAS is not just a file server, but a solution that is very easy to use and to introduce to the current infrastructure. But at the same time, if you have a large amount of data, you also need to find an efficient way to manage it and to make sure that everyone can access it easily. For effective data management, we have developed Synology Drive, our file synchronization and sharing solution. Synology Drive can be used from different devices found in your infrastructure, the PCs, the mobiles, other servers, so that users are able to access their data from anywhere. And let's see it in more details. On computer, we can access Synology Drive from the web with any browser using HTTP or HTTPS protocols, and no installation is required. In this portal, you can preview files, edit them with Synology Office, or download directly on your computer. When you work with files, of course, you want to be able to share them with others. With our application, users have control over sharing and security policies. Drive is a convenient way to share files internally and also externally. You can protect the access with a password and configure a limited time sharing, so a date at which the file will not be shared anymore. To track the activity, there are logs that can be exported as .csv files for easier browsing. And when you share your files on the drive with others, you can give users the possibility to edit them with Synology Office. Office is our solution for efficient collaboration integrated with Synology Drive. With Synology Office, you can collaborate with multiple users at the same time, and the changes will appear immediately for everyone. In case something goes wrong, you can always go back in time and choose the right version of the file, so no need to be afraid of human errors. As for compatibility, you can use Synology Office to work with all typical files found in the Office environment: documents, spreadsheets, slides for presentations, and you can also import and export Microsoft Office files, so you can still share the files with other people in the convenient format. So this is what you can do online in the web portal. If you prefer to use Drive directly from your computer desktop, we also provide Synology Drive client for PCs and Macs. The advantage is that using the client, you can access files directly that are synchronized from the NAS in your File Explorer. and you also have a possibility to access them offline. Another feature that we propose is a backup of your computer that can be scheduled or configured as continuous to make sure that all the changes are secured. At the same time, we do understand that with synchronization, you might face the issues of storage. This is why one of the recently introduced features is on-demand synchronization. This feature allows users to have locally only the files that they need, and the rest will be stored in the cloud and will only be accessible through the network, and thus save the computer storage. On-demand sync is also possible on smartphones. We have dedicated applications on iOS and Android devices, and users can easily connect with Quick Connect and access their files inside and outside the office. They can save files, access them offline, and share using the applications. Your clients might have several offices, for example, in different cities or countries, but they work with the same files and they want to synchronize them from multiple Synology NAS, for instance, between the headquarters and different sites. To create such a multi-office strategy efficiently, you can use our solution Synology Drive ShareSync, which is compatible with all our NAS models. What is useful is the versioning feature so that human errors can be avoided, which is very important. The synchronization task can be bidirectional or only one way, and the data transfer can be encrypted, ensuring that nobody can access the data when it's being transferred. That is, Synology Drive ShareSync is secure and efficient. As you can see, all this makes Drive the perfect file management solution accessible from all platforms. Why is it great? Because it's an all-in-one solution with one-time hardware cost, and it provides a complete control over your data and centralized management for IT admins. You will have your central server where all the data is stored, and you can access it via different clients available in your IT infrastructure. But how to find the correct NAS adapted to your needs? You can see recommendations on this slide. We can provide our solution for small companies with 50 or less users, but also for a company of 2,000 employees. And yet it is using one NAS, and if you want to go beyond this number, you can set up several servers for your client. All these recommendations are of course for your general reference, so if you need more information for a particular project, you can contact us directly to select the right Synology hardware. And now let's see how to use Synology Drive in a quick demo. I'm going to Synology Drive file portal, and I will find my files stored here. Imagine that I want to work together with my colleagues on a team project, so I'm going to share this document with them. I click on the Share button, and here I have a choice to send a direct file link or add the user manually. Let's say I add my colleague Demian. And I also can choose the access level for him, whether he can edit the document or just view it. So I save the changes, and I open the document. And we can start working on it together. As you can see, there are comments from different users, so we can communicate easily. And if someone is working on the document at this time, the changes will appear immediately. And now let's see how to use on-demand synchronization. So I open the Drive client, and I can see the list of tasks here. I click on the path link, and the File Explorer appears with all my files. You can notice there are 3 different types of status icons. Cloud means that the file is stored in the cloud and doesn't take any space on the computer. The hollow green tick means that the file is downloaded and being synchronized. And the full green tick means that the copy of the file is pinned locally and you can access it offline. You can always, of course, change the status of your file if you want to. Well, let's say you don't want large archives to take space on your computer anymore. So we right-click on it Synology Drive free up space. And you can actually do it for all documents at once. So we select everything and same way, free up space. And then you can check that indeed all these documents don't take any space on your computer anymore. So it's a great way to work with your files directly from the native File Explorer and also manage your storage. We've seen that Drive is a very efficient tool for a file server, and that with Drive ShareSync, you can easily synchronize data across multiple locations. But let's say you have hundreds of NAS, or thousands around the world. Instead of visiting every location and trusting local admins, you would for sure prefer to centrally manage them from one host. For these purposes, we also have a dedicated solution called Central Management System, CMS. With CMS, you can easily create a centralized infrastructure with a main NAS host and add multiple clients as necessary to speed up installation and make management easier for your IT team. And what can you use CMS for? You can use it to centralize the installation of updates of DSM or packages. You also can organize managed NAS into groups and apply policies to a group. This allows you to apply same settings to multiple servers without having to log into each server individually. And if a new NAS is added to a group, the rules will be applied automatically. Finally, it's a convenient way to monitor the servers. The notifications page displays a list of notifications from servers that are managed by the host. And you can also receive notifications by email, by SMS, or by push alerts. Here, once again, we propose recommendations how to select the correct product for your clients. If you have a small company with 10 clients, you can select a small NAS, and for a bigger company that needs to manage thousands of clients, you also have adapted solutions. For personalized recommendations, you can always contact us directly, and we will be happy to help you. And when we find the perfect file server with synchronization and sharing possibilities, it is very important then to think about the data protection, because data loss remains an important issue for all companies. And to protect the data on your Synology NAS, we propose the Active Backup Suite, our solution for centralized backup. Before presenting the solution, I would like to mention how important it is to think about the backup strategy. According to statistics, only in the US, there are 140,000 hard drive failures per day, among which 29% are related to accidents. So actually anyone can experience data loss. It can happen to anyone. Statistics also show that 60% of companies that faced a serious data loss closed in 6 months. It means that most of the companies that do not protect their data can end up having lots of issues. And despite of such an important risk, most of the companies are not ready in case of a major data loss. And this is not surprising. Of course, it takes a lot of time and energy to back up all the different devices. Most companies nowadays have different PCs, Windows, Mac and Linux, Windows servers on which they run services, for example, Active Directory. Some of them have virtualized infrastructure, so they use virtual machine for their services, and some of them have data on the cloud. When it comes to Synology, we propose a license-free package that is proved to be efficient for backing up the whole IT environment, and at the same time, it's simple and centralized. Our Active Backup Suite consists of 3 applications designed for backup purposes of different destinations. Active Backup for Business is made for backing up computers, servers, and virtual machines, while Active Backup for Office 365 and Active Backup for G Suite are for the corresponding cloud services. Again, I would like to repeat that it is for free. There are no license fees for all the Synology NAS users. Now let's explore the possibilities of Active Backup for Business. With Active Backup for Business, you can back up your entire IT infrastructure. So what do we support? For the PCs, we support Windows 10, 8 and 7. For servers, Windows Server. For the virtual machines, we support two major hypervisors, VMware and Hyper-V, and you also can backup any file server as long as it supports SMB and rsync protocols. And with Active Backup for Business, all of this we can backup on one Synology NAS. Let's now talk about the backup process itself. You can do it with or without an agent. When you want to backup a physical Windows client, you do need an agent. There is an MSI installer which allows you to install the agent on the computer. And we also recently added the central deployment feature so that administrators don't have to install the agent to each PC separately. So it allows to deploy the agent on multiple computers at the same time. When we backup hypervisors and virtual and file servers, we don't need an agent. You just connect to the NAS with an IP, then you create a backup task and you select what exactly you want to backup. Finally, you choose the backup settings and that's it. Very easy. Backups with Active Backup for Business are very efficient thanks to the two features that I'm going to show you right now. Our application provides a block-level incremental backup feature. So what exactly it means? Before every backup, a snapshot is made, and the first backup is the full backup. Then the system detects the changes that were made since the last backup. On this slide, you can see it in yellow. And the next backup will only include these changes, only these yellow blocks, instead of backing up the whole thing again. And so on with further backups. As you can imagine, it significantly saves the storage. There is something more that can help you achieve more efficient backup strategy: global deduplication, a very important feature. Not only do we support global deduplication between different devices, for example 3 PCs, but also we do it in different platforms. So if you have a Windows PC, Windows Server and a virtual machine, we're still able to deduplicate between all of them. And this is something that many of our competitors don't offer. The software analyzes the blocks of data, and for instance here it found 3 blocks repeating on different devices, and these 3 blocks will be backed up. As a result, you actually need less space to perform your backup tasks. In practice, the deduplication rate can be up to 2-3 times, but it always depends on the type of data that you have. For example, if you have 3,000 PCs and 100 terabytes of data, you can end up having 30-50 terabytes, which is more than 50% less. You also must not forget about protecting your NAS from a physical damage. On your NAS, there is an Active Backup for Business folder where all the data is going to be backed up. So we create a backup of a backup using another NAS. To do this, we simply use snapshot replication or hyper backup to replicate the folder of an Active Backup for Business to another NAS. This way you are sure that if something happens to your main NAS, you can always retrieve your data from another backup NAS. And now let's see how Active Backup for Business looks like and how to create a backup task for a virtual machine. So I'm going to open Active Backup for Business application. And there is a centralized interface with all the processes at a glance. Now imagine that I want to back up my virtual machine to a hypervisor. So I'm going to the Virtual Machine tab, I select my virtual machine, and I create a task. We select Active Backup for Business BTRFS folder as destination. You can select several virtual machines to backup if you want. And here are some other options for your task. We recommend enabling application-aware backup for data consistency and data compression and encryption to make the backup faster and safer. You can make your backup scheduled. You can make it run on specific days of the week. You can make it repeat on daily, weekly or hourly basis. You can make it start at a specific time of the day. Next, you can also select the retention policy. You can keep all versions or applied personalized settings based on your needs. Finally, we grant the access to users. And that's it. As you can see, it's very quick and intuitively simple to create a backup task for your devices. So now we know how to do the backup, and we're going to move on to the restore options. We, of course, hope that nobody has to restore their data, but sometimes it happens. And to cover all scenarios, we provide 4 recovery types depending on what kind of data you are trying to restore. The first one, restoring on the file level. The second, creating a USB support or an image of a backup. Then we have the restore to hypervisor or to virtual machine manager. And right now we'll have a closer look at each option. Starting with the file level restore. It's a self-service restore portal of Active Backup for Business where all your backups are available and you can browse different folders. And you can also change the timeline to decide at which point you want to go back. And then you have a choice to restore a file to the initial folder or download it to your computer directly. It's very easy to use, and every user with permissions can log in with their credentials and restore their own files without the help of IT admins. But sometimes you need to do more than file retrieving. Imagine if your PC is stolen or broken down and you want to restore all the files, the operating system, all the settings, and you cannot use file level restore in this case. So then you need to create a media recovery support. You need either a USB device or you can create an image of a PC, including the operating system and the files. It can then be used on a blank PC to restore everything. You will need a USB device of at least 1 GB of storage. And now we're moving on to the Hypervisor Restore. That is, if you want to restore a virtual machine or Windows server onto a hypervisor. Restoration is possible from and to different platforms, including both VMware and Hyper-V. There are 2 restore options: Full Restore, which is a complete image restore, and Instant Restore, mounting an image via NFS protocol. Let's see the difference between these 2 types with examples. First situation. Imagine that your production site is running VMware and all your services are running on these virtual machines. Suddenly, one of them doesn't work anymore. What we can do is to restore the virtual machine entirely. We take the image of the virtual machine, which is the VMDK file, and we transfer it to the hypervisor. And then we boot up the virtual machine using that image. The restore time will depend on your network speed, because in this case you are sending a complete backup over the network. But on the other hand, your virtual machine is completely restored and gives the full performance. But what if you don't have all this time to wait for this full restore to be completed and you want an urgent solution? It's better to choose an instant restore. With instant restore, you can indeed do things much faster. Let's imagine again that one of your virtual machine doesn't work, and this time, instead of taking the image and moving it to the hypervisor, we keep the image on the NAS and we just mount it via NFS. This way, the restore time will be equal to the time needed to boot up your virtual machine. And NAS, in addition to being a backup server, will also become a VMware data store. So again, since you don't have to send the complete image over the network, the restore will be much faster. And now we arrive to the last option, restore to the Synology Virtual Machine Manager. In this case, we take the virtual machine from the hypervisor, and instead of restoring it back to the hypervisor, we can restore it to Virtual Machine Manager, which is our own hypervisor, which lets you transform your NAS into a virtualization server. To do this, we recommend, of course, to have a NAS that is compatible with Virtual Machine Manager and to have at least 4 GB of memory. In case of disaster, you can use Instant Restore to Virtual Machine Manager as a temporary solution. Let's imagine that you have a production site with VMware and you're running 2 virtual machines on it. and they are very important for your services. And you also have a backup server running Active Backup for Business. Then there is some issue on the production side, let's say fire. It means that your hypervisor cannot be used anymore. You cannot access it. If your business processes depend on it, it means that at this moment you are losing money. So one of the options that you have is to get the backup from Active Backup for Business, turn on Virtual Machine Manager, and restore the backup directly on the NAS. So you put the backup on the Virtual Machine Manager. It means that your backup server now becomes a production server. And this way you can restart all your infrastructure and keep running all the services on your NAS directly until you have the way to access your initial production site or buy a new hypervisor. And then suppose that you fix the issues with your initial NAS, and you can simply take the OVA file, which is a full image of the virtual machine, including the changes, and you move it from the NAS to the hypervisor. And this way you don't lose the changes that happened during this time. And you are back to your initial setup. So as you can see, this is a solution to quickly react to disasters in order to keep your business processes running. And now let's see a demo how to do the virtual machine restore with Active Backup for Business. What I will do now, I will first restore some files that were on the virtual machine that we backed up previously, and then I will show how to restore the virtual machine entirely to Virtual Machine Manager. First, to restore my specific files, I go to Active Backup for Business Restore portal. Here you can browse your files, choose the backup version in the timeline, and let's say you want to restore important files. So you select the file, and you can restore it or download to your computer directly. Then imagine that your hypervisor doesn't work anymore and you want to restore your virtual machine to somewhere else. We're going to Active Backup for Business application. Select Virtual Machine tab, My Virtual Machine, and I click on Restore. We have a choice to restore to VMware, Hyper-V, but I will choose Instant Restore to Synology Virtual Machine Manager. I can choose the backup version. I choose the latest. Then you can select the storage pool to store your virtual machine. Then you can give it a name. Let's say Restore VM. And we can choose the number of CPUs and the number of gigabytes of RAM for this virtual machine. And we also can choose the size of the virtual disk and the network at which the virtual machine is going to be. Here, you can use an ISO file if you want to install additional software to your virtual machine. I recommend using Virtual Machine Manager guest tool for smoother navigation. Then we select which users will access to the virtual machine. And that's it. We click on Apply, and the virtual machine is going to be transferred to your NAS. In just a few seconds, we will be already able to power it on. I click on Power On, and we're going to give it some more time to be able to connect to it. I click on Connect, and the operating system is being launched. You will be able to restart the services in just a couple of moments. As you can see, devices are getting ready, and once the loading is completed, we will see the Windows screen appearing. Here it is. You can start using your virtual machine. So as you can see, it took us just a couple of minutes to completely restore the virtual machine. Let's now see which products we recommend to use for Active Backup for Business. Again, we have solutions that will suit to every company. Depending on the number of clients, and thus the number of devices, you can find a small NAS or an enterprise level one. There are certain requirements to keep in mind for the NAS to be compatible with Active Backup Suite. It must be equipped with an Intel x64 processor, it must be of a Plus series or above, and you need Btrfs folder format on a selected volume. And make sure that the version of the DSM is at least 6.1.7. If you want us to advise a model customized for your client situation and needs, you can always contact us directly. There is another example of our customer that trusted our solutions for efficient backup strategy with Active Backup for Business. It is Shiseido, multinational cosmetics and skincare producer. The issue was that the company had problems with a ransomware virus and many of employees' PCs were infected. They decided to look for a really strong backup solution. They tried several well-known backup software, but they were expensive, not effective, and not user-friendly. And for Shiseido, the possibility of incremental backup through a different platform was very important. Then they found out that Active Backup for Business can centrally backup data on client PCs, virtual machines, Windows servers, to a NAS, and they didn't have to purchase any additional licenses. So Shiseido decided to use RS3618XS as their virtual machine for their virtual machine servers and another NAS RS2416 Plus for their employees' PCs. So as you can see on the scheme on this slide, Shiseido had already been using a lot of Synology products before, and what they did now is that they completed their infrastructures with 2 additional NAS dedicated to Active Backup for Business purposes. This way, Active Backup for Business allowed them to create an efficient backup strategy for their data protection at no additional cost. And Shiseido was very happy with the results of such deployment. When they were using other backup tools, it usually took 6 to 8 hours to complete a restore task for virtual machines. And after using Synology Active Backup for Business, it only took 15 minutes. As we discussed before, it's a very efficient disaster recovery option. As for the deduplication, they had 58 terabytes initially, and after deleting duplicate data, it only took 28 terabytes. Therefore, now Shiseido Taiwan protected their business data and reduced the time and space required for backup by at least 50%. We're continuing to develop and improve our software, so there are several new features that are going to be introduced soon for Active Backup for Business. We want to make it compatible with as many platforms as possible. As for this year, we will include Linux. In the future, we also plan to introduce compatibility with Mac. We will also add the possibility of complete data encryption and not only the encryption of the transfer. As for the future updates, we also plan continuous backups, because now we can do it only every hour, and we want to make it launch every time there is a change. And finally, we will also add an offline backup. So if a backup process is interrupted, it will not anymore be cancelled and start over at next scheduled time, but the system will continue to do the backup of the PC offline and then send it to the NAS once the connection works again. All these features were frequently asked by the users, so we're focusing on introducing them in the future updates. As you can see, Active Backup for Business lets you create a complete and efficient backup solution for your whole IT environment, and this is in addition license-free, so no extra expenses. Moving on with the Active Backup Suite, the other 2 packages are Active Backup for Office 365 and Active Backup for G Suite. They are for all businesses that already use these cloud services but still want local copies to protect their data. Let's see what we can back up with these applications. We can back up drives, emails, calendars, contacts, and also for Microsoft Office 365, we include SharePoint. And all of this from both clouds can be backed up locally on one NAS. Here are the key features of these applications. Just like in Active Backup for Business, the centralized interface, continuous backup feature, meaning that every time there is a change, it should be backed up. The interesting thing is that we also include metadata, so everything attached to the data itself will be backed up and can be restored. Single instancing that lets multiple copies of a file to be replaced by a single shared copy, which is useful, for example, in email attachments. Then, every time the new account is created, the same backup policy will be automatically applied. We also provide self-service restore portal, just like an Active Backup for Business. And finally, users can personalize their retention policy according to their needs. And now let's see how to use Active Backup for Office 365. I'm not going to show you how to create a backup task because it's very easy. Instead, I will show you how to restore an email. So I'm going to open Active Backup for Office 365 Restore portal. And let's imagine that I'm the user of Microsoft Office 365 and my name is Jon Snow, so I'm going to connect to my account. And I have accidentally deleted all my emails, but there is one very important email that I absolutely need to get back. So I'm going to the mail part and I'm going to try to find that email here. I remember who sent it to me, so I'm going to search by sender name, Angel Huang. And here is that email about the important information on the newest roadmap. Let's suppose I don't remember who sent it to me, but I do remember that it was about the roadmap. So I can type the roadmap in the search bar, and I'm going to find exactly the same email. Now let's go even further. I don't remember who sent it to me, I don't remember the subject, but I do remember that there was an attachment and that attachment contained the word transformation. So I type transformation and I can also find that email with the keyword that is not even in the content of the message, but it's included in the attachment. So if you open the file, we indeed find here the word transformation. And when we find the correct email, we can restore or export it to the computer. So it's very quick and easy to find and restore your email on Office 365. But you might question then, why should we do a backup of a cloud service on a physical device? Of course, Google and Microsoft are safe, but you are not the owner of your data. It is always good to have a local copy, firstly for protection, if one day something goes wrong on the cloud service and your data is not accessible anymore. And secondly, data protection laws can change and you will always be able to react quickly and comply. Then it allows you to additionally protect in case of disaster. For example, an incident of the internet provider. It also gives you protection against human errors. So if a user accidentally deletes something, you are still able to restore it easily and you set up your own rules. To select the right products for this solution, here is another recommendation slide, showing that Synology products can suit to companies of any size. Again, it is just for your reference. After all, it depends on the whole range of solutions that are going to be on the NAS. And if you want us to recommend you a suitable model based on all your clients' usage criteria, don't hesitate to contact us, especially if you have a need of backup deployment of thousands of accounts. And for these two applications, we also have several new features planned for this year. New backup features that we will introduce include the possibility to create an offsite copy to another NAS. This is currently possible only with Active Backup for Business. For Office 365, we will support groups backup. You will be able to restore the entire group of users. We will also add a public folders backup support. The new restore options will include restorations of entire mailboxes. For now, it is possible only on the email level, and possibility to restore mails on the original folder instead of auto-creating a dedicated restore folder on your mailbox. These updates will make user experience even smoother. As you can see, these three applications of Active Backup for Business provide you a complete, efficient, and centralized way to back up all the devices and services. And when you have efficiently backed up your whole IT infrastructure on your NAS, you also should ensure redundancy for the backup to protect it. The best way to do that is to back up the data stored on your NAS to somewhere else, so that you are protected in case of disaster. And for these purposes, you can use Hyper Backup, our dedicated NAS data protection software. Hyper Backup is an application that allows you to use your NAS as a backup source and back it up to different destinations. Your backup destination can be a local shared folder, another Synology NAS, an external device, a file server, or a public cloud service like Google Drive, Amazon Drive, Dropbox, and Synology C2, our own cloud backup service, which we will see closer in a moment. So within one application, you can choose among various destination possibilities and find the one that suits your strategy best. And what are the features of Hyper Backup? First of all, and what is very important, is the block level incremental backup. Only the changes will be backed up and the backups will be faster and take less space. Also, Hyper Backup makes the backup process efficient and secure with its block level deduplication, like an Active Backup for Business, which again saves space and reduces costs. And advanced versioning policy that can be personalized, and what is one of the main features our clients are the most interested in, the client-side encryption of the data before it is sent. You can create a password, and without it, no one can access your data. This way you can be sure about the privacy of your backup, and this is indeed a very great feature. You can also easily manage the backup settings, create schedules of backups, for example, if you want a backup to repeat on a specific hour every day. You can also customize your own policy to rotate backups, and last but not least, integrity check, which allows to detect corrupted files in your previous backups and make sure your data can always be restored. As you can see, you can have the full control over your backup. Then, as we discussed, you might want to use a cloud service as a destination of your backup and have your backup data always available. For that, we have developed our own cloud backup solution, Synology C2, so the cloud storage space for Synology users that provides data security and confidentiality. C2 has all the features and advantages of Hyper Backup, including block-level incremental backup, data deduplication, and versioning. Backup on C2 is very flexible and secure. We provide different storage options, and you can expand space if you need to. You can encrypt your data before sending it to the cloud platform. And since it is a public cloud service, we provide military-grade double encryption. And this way, both your data and your encryption key are encrypted and protected, and even Synology staff cannot access your data. And we have easy restore options. We have the web portal, which allows you to restore some files online with your browser, and this is very useful if you don't have access to your NAS. We also have a desktop client with Hyper Backup Explorer, which lets you restore your files directly on your PC. Or you can do a complete restore on a new NAS with the help of Hyper Backup. Another thing that is important to mention is that our data center is located in Germany, respecting the GDPR norms, so you can assure your customers about the compliance. And now let's see the demo of Hyper Backup and Synology C2 and how to use it for the backup task. What I will do now is I'm going to create a backup task with Hyper Backup and use Synology C2 as destination. And we will also see the restore portal. So I open the Hyper Backup application. I click on creating a new task. And I choose Synology C2 as destination. And then we are going to connect to C2. Here you can see the storage that is already used on your account. Then you can select the name of the task and select which folders you want to back up. I choose Benelux. You also have the possibility to back up application settings. So if you want to restore the NAS entirely, you can use this function. Here you have some additional settings. You can limit the bandwidth usage for the backup if you have a slow internet connection. And what we can also do is to enable the client-side encryption of the data. So we can set the password, and it will be required to access your backup data. This way, you will be sure that no one can access it unless it is you. In the backup rotation, you can choose to recycle from the earliest versions or enable Smart Recycle to automatically delete old versions and keep the versions with most changes, or create your own policy for your needs. You can also choose how many versions you want to be stored. My backup task has already been created, so I will open it. And to restore my files, I will use Backup Explorer. I enter my password. And now I can choose the files in the different folders. I can select the backup version in the timeline, and I can also restore or download a file. Now imagine that you don't have access to your NAS. Then you can use the browser, go to C2 portal, connect, then we're going to find our backup task, and we're going to connect to it in exactly the same way. Again, the password is required because, as you remember, we enabled client-side encryption. And my files are available here, and I also can download them if needed. So even if your NAS is not available, you can still access your files online, which is of course very convenient. I would like to show you another real-life example of our customer, BBC Media Action, and how they solve their challenge with our solutions. BBC Media Action has 11 offices around the world, the headquarters in London, and 10 sites in developing countries that had limited IT resources and connectivity, and that resulted in problems in collaboration. Moreover, these remote offices were using portable hard drives, which made their data more sensitive to being lost or not retrievable. So they thought of setting up an independent file server in each site and back it up to a central file server in London to protect their data even more. They wanted to ensure that their valuable media data are safe and protected with the latest technology, and we provided them with the following solution. A powerful 16-bay RS-4017 Access Plus was implemented as their central storage hub in the London office, and using Synology CMS, 10DS1819 Plus were configured and installed in each location. With Hyper Backup, regular backups were set up, allowing the headquarters to receive updates from all branches on a daily basis. And as a result, teams can efficiently collaborate and get rid of external hard drives usage, and of course protect their data. Using CMS, all the servers on remote locations were configured from the main NAS in London, which reduces the workload from the IT team and eliminates the necessity to visit every location physically. And all the data is secured thanks to the backups with the help of Hyper Backup. As BBC say themselves, this partnership with Synology enables to deliver their vital, life-changing objectives. I have presented you our software solutions dedicated to data protection, and now I would like to move on to the hardware presentation, the products on which you can actually deploy our software solutions. And I would like to focus on two product lines, the SA and SAD. These two types are the most suitable for acting as a file server or a backup server of high storage level. The first product of the SA line is the SA3400. It is equipped with a very powerful 8-core CPU Intel Xeon D1541. It has 12 bays and can be expanded with expansion units up to 96 bays, and you can reach as much as 1.5 petabytes of storage. So it is an ideal NAS for storing a lot of data, so it can serve you as a file server or a backup server if you have big storage needs. If you also want to use a NAS for virtualization, then there is the SA3600. It is similar to the previous model, but it has a more powerful CPU, the 12-core Intel Xeon D1567. So it can not only serve as a file server and a backup server, but also as a virtualization server. You will learn more details about our virtualization services in our next presentation today. If you need a redundant file server as an additional protection from the data loss, then we offer you SA3200D, where D stands for the dual controller. So this NAS has 2 controllers, 2 CPUs, and has an active-passive architecture. If one of the controllers fails, another one will automatically take over. It has 12 bays and can be expanded up to 36, and it is compatible with SAS drives. It is a perfect NAS to be used as a high availability server or redundant storage for virtualization or redundant backup server. This is the end of the first presentation, and I would like to thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat, and after a small break, we will continue with the second presentation about our virtualization solutions.